So why do businesses need finance? Well, of course, not every business does require finance. Recent surveys suggest that that as many as 80% of the current business population have no intention of applying for new borrowing or increasing existing borrowing at the present time. Why might that be? Well, often it's to do with confidence, and in the current economic climate, it is perhaps understandable that businesses are playing an element of wait and see, waiting to see if the opportunities arise before investing in plant, equipment, and people. So why do businesses usually need finance? Well, many will require finance to start a business. Often they require borrowing for cash flow purposes. Some will require finance to purchase new assets such as machinery, vehicles, and so on. Perhaps they may need finance for new premises or extending an existing location. Perhaps they'd like to buy into or join forces with another business. Equally, they may wish to grow an existing business, use the money for succession planning, any number of reasons why businesses may need finance today. So what sources of finance are there? Well, many businesses today are very reliant on their own resources. That's savings they've made, money they've put aside. Perhaps many have planned in advance for the moment which they wish to go into running their own firm. Many also are reliant on family and friends. Others will, of course, turn to the banking sector. There are a host of other sources that not everyone knows about, but these will include asset-based finance, business angels, private equity, charities and community development finance associations, regional grants, and many other sources which are operated on a local basis. But I think it's important from the outset to make a clear distinction between debt finance and equity finance. The type of finance banks traditionally provide is what we call debt finance, and this is simply an amount of money that the banks will lend to a customer, and this is all repaid from a set rate of interest. This is quite different from the risks involved with equity finance, whereby the equity investor is looking for quite a substantial return for the commiserate risks that they happen to be taking. So it is quite possible under certain circumstances, particularly for a very new and untried venture, that equity finance might be the most appropriate form of finance rather than debt finance. So looking at some of the sources then that we highlight previously, what do we know about asset-based finance, such as invoice finance and leasing? Well, asset finance is an alternative funding to support the acquisition of new or additional assets. Outright purchases can be a significant drain on working capital and would not always be the most effective way to manage capital expenditure. The usual types of asset finance are hire purchase, operating leases, finance leases, and contract hire. Other alternative sources of finance would be European Investment Bank funding. This is typically available through a number of banks in the banking sector and aimed specifically at UK businesses across a range of industries. The loan term is for a maximum of 2 years and is subject to a maximum single loan value of 12.5 million. The loans are targeted at businesses with less than 250 employees and must also be used for investment and not working capital or debt refinancing. Then there is the Enterprise Finance Guarantee and the Export Enterprise Finance Guarantee schemes. Now, these are not sources of finance in the truest sense, but I would describe them as enablers. Let's look then at the Enterprise Finance Guarantee. This is a government-backed scheme for businesses with turnover below £25 million and with a viable business plans, but who lack the level of security normally required for a standard credit facility. An EFG loan provides a 75% government-backed guarantee on any individual loan. The loan terms range from 3 months up to 10 years and have a maximum value of £1 million. And the point to bear in mind about the Enterprise Finance Guarantee, it is aimed at businesses which are viable and would otherwise receive bank finance but for the fact that they don't have sufficient security available. So the government guarantee is stepping in the place of that security to effectively be an enabler for the bank to be able to lend the finance. The Export Enterprise Finance Guarantee Scheme is a new scheme which has been brought in recently and indeed is part of the task force deliverables to supplement the Enterprise Finance Guarantee. The EFG scheme supports export transactions not covered by the EFG scheme. It is also aimed at viable businesses who require an export finance facility but have insufficient security to obtain borrowing. It provides a 60% government-backed guarantee on any supported facility and covers traditional trade instruments and facilities such as lines of credit, including pre- and post-finance, bonds and guarantees, and invoice financing. Let's look at some other sources. Supplier payments. Supplier payments can let buying organisations make early payments and ease the cost of supplier finance, so supporting their supply chains. Suppliers finance the period between an order being placed by a customer and the subsequent payment being received. Trade finance can be a source of working capital that helps balance sums owed to suppliers whilst funding credit terms to buyers. It can also be a potential tool to reduce some of the risks associated with trade, and it's closely linked to ultimate payment. Invoice finance. Invoice finance is a source of short-term funding with capacity to increase in line with the expansion of a business. As an invoice is raised, it is sent to the invoice finance provider, and typically 85% of the value of that invoice is released within a very short time period, such as, say, 24 hours. Business angels. Business angels are usually high net worth individuals who invest on their own or as part of a syndicate in typically a high growth business. In addition to money, business angels often make available their own skills, experience and contacts, so that not only do you benefit from the funding, but you benefit from the expertise of the angel. Other sources we can consider would be charity organisations such as the Prince's Charities. These are a group of not-for-profit organisations of which the Prince of Wales is patron or president. 18 of the 20 charities were founded personally by the Prince. There's also a number of available grants, which are often based on perhaps geographical areas or employment opportunities or linked to certain industries. But grants are a viable source of alternative finance for a number of businesses. And finally, there's Community Development Finance Association. The CDFA lends money to businesses, social enterprises and individuals. Most CDFIs are based within the UK's most disadvantaged communities, providing loans and support to businesses, social enterprises, community organisations or charities. Information about alternative sources of finance can be obtained from the betterbusinessfinance.co.uk website. There's a fact sheet on the site called Alternative Sources of Finance. Another sourcing fund that's worth considering is the recently launched Business Growth Fund. The Business Growth Fund is a form of equity fund, again set up as one of the Business Task Force initiatives to provide funding for businesses between £2 and £10 million. Information on the Business Growth Fund can be obtained directly from their own website, which is www.businessgrowthfund.co.uk.